The wind is howling like it wants to rip the world apart, and a 22-year-old girl stands on the porch of the only home she's ever known, holding a small suitcase and a positive pregnancy test. That girl was me, Olivia Harper. Snow was falling so hard I couldn't see the streetlights. My breath turned to ice the second it left my lips. And behind me, the front door slammed shut. Locked. For good. My own parents, Richard and Linda Harper, had just thrown me out. Their exact words still echo in my head. "You made your bed, Olivia. Now freeze in it. We will not raise a bastard child under our roof." I was 6 weeks pregnant, terrified, alone, and homeless in the middle of the coldest winter our small town had seen in 20 years. How did I end up here? How does a straight A daughter, the pride of the family, become trash in one night? Keep listening, because what happened next will shock you, break your heart, and then make you cheer louder than you ever have.
Let me take you back 2 years earlier. I was the golden child. Dad bragged about my college scholarship at every family barbecue. Mom framed every award I ever won and hung them in the hallway like trophies. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. Dad owned a small hardware store downtown. Mom worked part-time at the library. I had a boyfriend, Caleb. We'd been together since junior year of high school. Everyone said we were endgame. Then, one night, after my 22nd birthday, the test turned positive. I was shaking when I told Caleb. He hugged me, kissed my forehead, and said, "Olivia, we got this. I love you. We'll figure it out together." I believed him. So the next evening, I sat my parents down in the living room, heart pounding, and said, "Mom, Dad, I'm pregnant." The silence was worse than screaming. Dad's face turned red, then purple. Mom just stared like I'd spoken a foreign language. Dad finally exploded. "You're throwing your life away after everything we sacrificed for you?" I begged. I cried. I promised I would still go to college, that I'd work twice as hard, but in their eyes, I was ruined. Dirty. A disgrace. 2 days later, while I was at work, they packed my things into one suitcase and changed the locks. When I came home that night, Mom stood at the door with her arms crossed and said, "You're not our daughter anymore. Leave." And just like that, I was on the street. That first night, I slept in Caleb's car. The heater barely worked. I wrapped myself in his old work jacket and cried until my ribs hurt. Caleb wanted me to move in with him, but he still lived with his parents, and they weren't exactly thrilled about the situation either. So for 3 months, I bounced between his car, cheap motels when I had tip money from waitressing, and when I had nothing, the women's shelter downtown. At 4 months pregnant, I started bleeding one night. I was alone, terrified, sure I was losing the baby. I called my mom from the ER, sobbing, begging her to come. She let it ring once, then blocked my number. The doctors saved my little girl that night, but something inside me broke forever. I named her Ava, even before she was born, because it means life, and she was the only life I had left. 7 months pregnant, swollen feet, living in one room at the shelter, I was eating free oatmeal in the common area when an older woman sat across from me. Elegant silver hair, kind eyes, expensive coat. She looked completely out of place. She said, "Sweetheart, you look like you're carrying the weight of the world." I laughed through tears and told her everything. Her name was Margaret Voss, the Margaret Voss, who owned half the commercial real estate in the state. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she slid a business card across the table and said, "I started with nothing too. Come work for me when you're ready. We'll take care of you and that baby." I thought it was a dream. Rich people don't help girls like me. But 2 days after Ava was born, Margaret showed up at the hospital with a car seat, diapers, and a job offer. Assistant property manager, full benefits, and a small apartment above one of her buildings, rent-free until I got on my feet. I cried so hard the nurses thought something was wrong.
I worked like a woman possessed. Days managing tenants, fixing leaks myself to save money, learning everything about real estate. Nights, online classes with Ava asleep on my chest. Margaret became my mentor, my fairy godmother, and the grandmother Ava never had. By the time Ava was 3, I had my real estate license. By the time Ava was 6, I was Margaret's right hand, flipping houses, making deals most men twice my age couldn't touch. And then Margaret got sick. Cancer. Fast. 6 months later, she called me to her bedside and said, "Olivia, everything I have is yours. You earned it. Make me proud." She left me 60% ownership of Voss Properties, worth hundreds of millions, and a letter that said, "Never let anyone make you feel small again." Overnight, the homeless girl in the snow became one of the wealthiest women under 30 in the country. Funny how life turns, right?
8 years after they threw me out, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. A shaky voice. "Olivia? It's Mom." I froze. She was crying. "Sweetie, your dad's store went under. The bank is taking the house. We have nowhere to go. Please, you're our only hope." I didn't say a word for 10 full seconds. Then I heard Dad in the background, weak, coughing. "Tell her we're sorry. Tell her we love her." They didn't know who I was now. They thought I was still the broke single mom begging for scraps. I asked, "Do you even know your granddaughter's name?" Silence. Mom whispered, We were wrong. We're so sorry." I hung up, and for the first time in years, I cried. Not from pain, but from power. I invited them to dinner, told them I had found success, and wanted to help family. They showed up at my mansion looking small, ashamed, wearing clothes from 10 years ago. Ava, now 8 years old, beautiful, smart, confident, opened the door. Mom gasped. Who? I smiled. "Mom, Dad, meet your granddaughter." You should have seen their faces. Shock, guilt, regret, all at once. We sat down to a dinner cooked by my private chef. I let them talk first about the failed business, the medical bills, the foreclosure. Then I slid an envelope across the table. Inside, photos of me on the cover of Forbes, articles about Voss Properties, and a bank statement showing more zeros than they'd ever seen. Dad's mouth actually fell open. I said calmly, "This is what happened after you left me to freeze. This is what I built while you pretended I didn't exist." Mom reached for my hand, sobbing. "We're so proud. Please forgive us." I pulled my hand away. Forgive? I already did. That's how I stopped being bitter. But trust? Love? That you threw away the night you locked the door. I stood up. "You'll never be homeless. I'm buying your old house back from the bank tomorrow. You can live there rent-free for the rest of your lives. But you will never call me daughter again. You lost that privilege. Ava will know you as the nice old couple who lived down the street, if she wants to." They left in tears, not because I was cruel, but because they finally saw the full cost of what they did. Today, Ava and I travel the world, run an empire, and give scholarships to every single mom who was told she was ruined. I'm not angry anymore. I'm free. And every December 23rd, I take Ava to that same porch where I once stood freezing. I show her the spot and say, "This is where Mommy learned that family isn't always blood. Sometimes family is the stranger who hands you a business card in a shelter. Sometimes family is the tiny heartbeat inside you that refuses to give up. So if you're listening and someone has thrown you out, told you you're worthless, slammed a door in your face, hear me. That door closing is not the end. It's the beginning of the life you were always meant to build. They wanted me broken. Instead, I became unbreakable. And that, my friends, is the sweetest revenge of all. If this story hit you in the chest, do me a favor, smash that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear they're not alone, and subscribe for a new revenge and redemption story every week. Drop a comment and tell me, where in the world are you watching from right now? And which part of Olivia's story made you cry or cheer the loudest? I read every single one. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next one. Stay strong.